Hey everyone, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today I'm reviewing something really special to me, and that's the ZMF Caldera. We all know this hobby is a deep, dark rabbit hole, and as it stands, I have quite an embarrassing amount of headphones now. I've been collecting a lot, and now IEMs, of course, are being added to the mix. So why the Caldera? To help this make more sense, I'm going to rewind time. We're going to go back to CanJam 2022, where I first heard this. I was in SoCal CanJam last year, almost a year ago to this day. And that's when they debuted them, at least for where I could hear them. And I wasn't ready for it, to be honest. I didn't know what to expect. And I remember very vividly sitting down. Someone else had already been listening to music on it. It was Radiohead's Identikit, which I've talked about in other reviews in the past, all within the last year. Little history lore, or channel lore, I guess. I just decided to hit play, and I was so starstruck by this headphone, which admittedly was paired with some amazing source gear, but I just ended up sitting there for a longer time than I was ready for. I could not believe what I was hearing. It was a Planar that had some of the quality characteristics that I like from a dynamic, but then some of the technical benefits of a Planar. So it just kept revealing more and more surprises and nuances as I listened. So I talked to Zach. Zach is the Z at ZMF. A little history on him too, by the way. ZMF, the F actually stood for film, because he's really into, don't get mad at me, I'm not going to say this right, but he's into film, he's into writing stories and things like that. Like, that whole industry is a big hobby, and ZMF started because he wanted to start making and customizing headphones to help pay some bills for like student loans and stuff back then. But he did such a good job, and people were liking his projects so much, it turned into a business, and here we are today. So I talked to him for a while, and I kind of said, like, this is amazing. I need to have more time with this. CanJam's not like dead silent, and I wanted some more time at my home to really experience it. And as a little bit of time went on, like very short period of time, I decided that I wanted my own to buy. So this is a pretty custom special piece to me, and we talked about it for a while, about some design ideas, what I would like, what I'm looking for in my effectively endgame headphone. I don't really want to use that term too much because I'm not going to stop buying new headphones, but this is like my perfect realization of a headphone for everything I know and I've experienced so far. So when I talked to Zach, I'm like, I want something kind of exotic but classy and timeless at the same time. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Surprise me. So fast forward to this year, May of 23, and I go to a different audio show called Axpona, which is in Zach's backyard over in Chicago. And he had it ready for me there, and that's where I picked it up. And I did the surprise reveal for myself in the lobby at that hotel. And it just blew me away. Now, the Caldera starts at $3,500. It's not an inexpensive headphone. And that's for the standard finish of a pretty classy looking wood. It still looks beautiful even in stock form. And then he has a couple other models that is pictured on the website to customize further. Now, this is a resin stabilized Buckeye burl. It's just gorgeous. There's so much depth to it because of the resin. I wanted something with like a resin and an epoxy type look inside, just to give some uniqueness to it, but I didn't want to go full resin, and I didn't want to lose some of the classy wood that Zach's been known to produce with his headphones. So this one is kind of unique, admittedly. I think you can get some new ones that will get closer to it, but that's definitely custom, and that will put you north of the $4,000 price point. So it's just a matter of, are you looking at this more for the sound exclusively, and then you can save your money, or if you want to customize, you can email them. Now, all of these take a little bit to build, so don't expect to buy it and have it show up at your door within a day. Expect several weeks, especially for custom jobs. But either way, when you make the order, it'll give you all that on the website. Now, I don't want to spend too much time talking about specs, but just to cover the basics, it's a planar magnetic open back headphone, so you can hear your surroundings. It uses an 80mm custom built driver by ZMF. Now, it is rated at 60 ohms, and it has a 95 decibel sensitivity rating. Ultimately, it's still fairly easy to drive with those ratings. I had trouble on, like a $30-$40 inexpensive DAC really getting them to shine. They do benefit and scale immensely well depending on what kind of amp. And I will talk about a couple sources later. So there are different cables in the box, or cables you can purchase. There are different pads you can purchase. There's even different cases. There are so many things you can customize with this, and a lot of it is pre-listed on the website. So I actually have all three cables. I got the full XLR, the quarter inch or 6.3 millimeter one, and then I also have the XLR. So I just want to open the case real quick. Now this case I strongly recommend if you're ever thinking about traveling. I'm going to go over these pads in a second, but I want to show you this other cable. So these are OFC. I love these nylon ones. This one, my Penacon cable, is full rubber. It's a balanced 4.4 millimeters, so this will work on my Creative X5 DAC if I decide to use this on the gaming side for my PlayStation, because that's what's hooked up there. So that cable's a little bit stiffer. I like the nylon ones more, but you can customize different cables online. Now it's terminated with mini XLR, so technically you can use any cable that uses that and be good to go. But he does offer a few online. Now I want to talk about the pad shape importance in a moment, but I also want to talk about the pad differences that you get, because there's a few options. Now I like the stock thickness lambskin the most. It's still my favorite. I think it's the standard pad that's included. They have a thin pad, they have a thick pad, then they have the standard lambskin. They also have the cowhide leather version. This is the thick here. You can see how thick the backside is, and that's actually on this note on the top down view. You can see that taper. Basically, because if you trace around your ear, you can feel like a little detent somewhere down here on your head, depending on your shape. So the idea of these pads is to maintain a proper seal even around your ear, because planars are really sensitive to seal. Closebacks are sensitive to a seal as well in general, because with a planar you kind of get these weird phasing issues if you're not maintaining a proper seal for imaging. So that's addressed with the pad shape. Now you can also get suede pads. My favorite two pads are the stock lambskin, the medium thickness, and the suede. I have no idea how the hell the Caldera sounds so good with this suede pad when it still sounds so good with the lambskin. Usually the sound quality is immensely different. This still preserves some of the warmth, and it preserves the transients that I like on the lambskin pad. The lambskin pad to me is just a little bit more dynamic and punchy. I guess I'm already getting into sound quality, but while I have the pads out, the suedes just feel a little bit smoother to me. You don't lose as much the dynamics, but it's a different of enough sound profile that I like it just because of a different comfort sense. And it's really easy to switch too. They just, as you can see, it's a little rubber ring, so you can just pop them off. So in my opinion, if you want to pick only two pads, when you're spending this much, I recommend getting a couple pad sets. Do with the stock thickness lambskin, go with suede. The thicker lambskin is nice if you want a little bit more warmth and a wider image, but overall I think the other pads just performed a little bit better, at least for me. Now we're about to talk about sound quality, I promise, but I do want to cover this real quick too. So this is the Mantle Mesh Kit. It's $20 on his website, and you can use this to customize the treble a little bit. So if you want to dull the peaks of your treble just a little bit, this is a pretty inexpensive kit. All you have to do is pop off the pad, and I'll show you a picture on the screen just so you can see what that looks like installed, and then you can fine tune it from there. It's inexpensive enough where you can at least mess around with it to see if you like it or not, but that's only if you're not happy with how it sounds out of the box. Now I want to talk about comfort real quick, because there's no hiding that this thing is pretty heavy. My configuration weighs over 600 grams. I think it's like 620 or something like that. You can choose the magnesium frame upgrade, again, like I mentioned earlier, to cut back weight, but I'm used to the heavier weight headphones because I typically I've used the Odyssey LCDX quite a lot in the past, and it's a similar feel weight-wise, but this headband design that they made, the way it's tapered and designed here, there's padding and then kind of like a suspension strap that goes into the padding, and it distributes weight very well, very evenly, and you don't really feel the weight as you would expect. You can tell the mass is there, but it doesn't feel like it's super heavy on the top of your head. They went with a slightly stronger clamp force, I'd say medium firm, because they want to maintain accurate imaging performance and consistent sound by having a good seal around your ear. So because some of that weight is offset by the clamp and this headband design, it actually doesn't feel like it's 600 grams. You can tell it's there. There's no way of getting around physics, but it's still very comfortable for me. I find the suede pads even more comfortable, but again, I like the stock lambskin pads the most as far as sound quality goes. You do have telescoping yokes, or yeah, this post right here can telescope up and down, and there's a little bit of a set screw to adjust the stiffness in case it's moving around too much. So full rotation, swivel. You can see all these little vents and everything. All of this has a purpose. He does this for the audio tuning, and then you can see on the bottom here you have the mini XLR termination. So it's just such a stunning headphone. I always go back to the looks as my first piece of falling in love with it. So now it's time to talk about sound quality. I'm going to briefly touch on the objective stuff. Now I have a Gross clone rig using some pretty good pinnas, and it measures pretty accurately, but I also have other measurements as well that you can compare to. And on my rig, as you can see, it measures really well. You have a flat table of bass. There is bass extension all the way down to 20 hertz, which is amazing on an open back headphone of any kind. And then it's relatively flat until you get to the mid-range. Now, when you approach the upper mid-range, there is a little bit of a scoop. This is normal and kind of like a preferred tune I've been noticing with a lot of audio products to help create a sense of space and stage. And it builds up more energy and more decibels around the 2K region than something like the Hi-Fi open back planar magnetic headphones, which does change the sound a bit. I'll get into how that actually translates later. So, and then on the treble, there's some unique tuning there as well. This does color the sound a little bit. You have a couple scoops and some emphasis in the upper treble region to create some air. Now, this has, as far as how it really sounds, I want to start with a few things that go beyond measurements. And one of them is the transients, the attack and decay, because planar magnetics are known for transients. They have a very fast attack and decay, and it produces amazing technical performance, resolution, and speed. It may not always sound natural, and the reason why I've typically liked a lot of dynamic headphones is because on the timbre and vocal quality, it just sounds more natural to me. But then when you get the speed of a planar, sometimes that's really intoxicating too. The bass performance that you get from a good planar, a large planar, can be pretty intoxicating. So they have this atrium damping system, ADP, wow. Basically they have this like sponge foam type material that's in the back. I'm simplifying this, but they control, it's a patent system by ZMF where they can control the resistance of the airflow behind the driver. Because this is an open back, they want to preserve the openness, but they still want to tune and have some control over the back end of the driver, because that does impact sound. It's a tuning system, just like pads are a tuning system. The end result is there is a touch of warmth to these. There is a smoothness to the presentation, going back to the whole attack and decay, that falls between a dynamic and a planar. So now I'm getting some of both of what I love about headphones in a single package. And this is what made me fall in love with the ZMF, because there is a sense of like body and soul in the Caldera that I haven't had in prior headphones. It's an expensive headphone. It's going to do some amazing things, but that is the most noticeable thing for me right off the bat. Now that subtle warmth translates to music just having a little bit more body to it. I don't want to say heft in general because it doesn't sound heavy, but it sounds warm, it sounds cozy, not overly so. Now this is offset, or at least backed and supported by that rise that you get in the 2K region. Now this rise helps, at least for me, with guitar performance and drums. And the way this marries together is drums kick and punch the way they should. And then you have a snare or an electric guitar come in that has so much more energy on this than it did on my Hi-Fi-Man HE1000 SE, which I like. I think, yeah, I have it there. Also a plus $3,000 headphone, at least before the price cuts. Now beyond the transient performance and the decay that I just absolutely love for music, when you get into the Caldera and what it can do with music, what I love about it is I can listen to just everyday music in addition to the whole audiophile testing thing. You know, you can listen to like very highly regarded tracks, to hear all these nuances of fingers touching the strings, or the person breathing when they're pressing on the piano pedal, or all these weird things that you listen to on like an audiophile level. But at the end of the day, if I want to listen to Korn or Tool, or switch over to some EDM or hip hop, not audiophile tracks necessarily, but I just want to listen and enjoy my music, the Caldera is the headphone that lets me just enjoy the music without thinking about EQ or doing anything. But at the same time, if I want to critically listen, I can still be blown away by it. There is an emotional connection that happens with the Caldera that I've never had with another audio product before. And when I first heard this, like I said in the beginning of this video, I got caught off guard and I sat there for a while just to listen to music until I felt like I was being rude to other people waiting to listen to it as well. And a little backstory, so I brought this to the Northeast when I traveled to visit my family. I'm from the Boston area. I made 3 people cry. I guess tearing up, if that counts, not like breaking down crying. But I didn't say anything about everything this thing would do. They're not audiophile people at all. But my brother-in-law and my mom and someone else who I can't really mention yet because that might be a surprise video later, they all got emotional. And it all started with Radiohead's Identikit, which is such a special track to hear on these with the right amp. Actually I have it here still. I brought the niche Magni Piety. And this is a really special little amp. It's $165 right now. They re-released a new batch, under $200, and it works really well with the Caldera. So I traveled with this, with an Apple dongle, and that's all I needed. And it's just, you get hooked so fast because it has this warmth and embrace. Like your headphone's there with you. Your headphone's your buddy. You're not just listening to music. It's almost like it's just doing something to emotionally connect the music to you, which usually I don't get with headphones. I tend to prefer speakers when I can listen to them. We don't always have that luxury, so headphones have been a very popular source for music for many reasons. So that is kind of where I want to emphasize the most. I don't want to do this headphone a disservice by not going down too many technical paths. I think that the touch of warmth is neutral enough to where I'm not creating any kind of boxiness or resonance, or even bloom with bass that is affecting vocals. It's the slightest, most gentle hug of vocal performance. Female vocals aren't recessed. They're also not lispy or sharp sounding. The only vocal at louder listening volumes because of the 2K boost was when I was listening to a couple songs from Depeche Mode. His voice has kind of a unique tone to it, and at higher volumes, it really skirts the line of forwardness for me. It's not perfect. You can EQ the 2K down slightly, or you can just not listen to it as loudly. But that was about the only sensitivity I had that I could recall from a vocal performance. When it comes to treble extension and imaging, I didn't mind that this had a couple peaks. It's its unique sauce, and I really liked it out of the box. Again, I mentioned the whole filter thing that you can do otherwise, but the soundstage isn't overly wide. This isn't like an HD800S. It's not like the HiFiMan Aria Stealth or even the HE1000, which sounds a little bit more leaner and analytical and sterile sounding. I like the HE1000 SE. In fact, I forgot how good it sounded because I was doing a lot of A/Bing with that and the Meze Elite, which I'll be reviewing. And this has the little extra heft and warmth like I was talking about that the HE1000 SE does not have, but it still has enough treble energy to carry through with it and still give me some sense of space and airiness. So it's the right blend for me. I don't like things overly sharp and spiky, too much treble boost, anything like that. I also don't like heavy amounts of bass. I like the bass to have good texture to it, good detail, good dynamics, because I listen to rock as well, and I need it to punch when it's supposed to punch. So it's special to me, and I knew I had to have one. So I've had this for several months now. I want to thank Zach for building this for me, and I hope I kind of conveyed what makes the Caldera special. I really don't know how much because I didn't really want to script this part. I really wanted it to come from like emotion and experience, and the Caldera just does something that I haven't had before. So if you're ever in the market or have the ability to hear one of these, I know he goes to a lot of audio shows. There's some dealers that have these, and I know they're international to an extent now, so you can find them in a lot of places, but I strongly suggest trying it, because it's one of those things where once you hear it, you may not use other headphones as much anymore. I have a big headphone collection, and I haven't used these as much as I should, only because I'm not sure how many people watch my channel that are car people. I'm a huge Ferrari fan. I've been into Formula One since I was a kid. To me, this is like my Ferrari. This is what I've worked hard my whole life to finally get to, and it's so special. I can't listen to it all the time because I feel like when I go to other things, I don't enjoy them as much anymore. So I think that says a lot about this headphone. It's kind of like my take it out for the weekend special kind of driver. And I don't think I should use it more because I just love it so much. And that's really what it's about at the end of the day. But it really is such a special, special headphone. So huge thanks to Zach at ZMF for making this for me. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I'd love to see it future content, and I will see you next time. Bye.